Hello. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, me. It's okay.
Good.
And how about the other one?
I think she's getting connected. Like we can wait for her for a few minutes.
I can see her name over there.
Oh, she's connected already. Maybe she's a little bit away.
Okay. Mm. I'm just waiting for her. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Good then. Let's continue.
Is she there?
I I see she has arrived here, but I don't find any response from her.
Okay. Maybe let me text her.
Okay.
Oh, she says we can continue. She's connected. She can hear us, but we cannot hear her.
Hello.
Fine. Hello.
Oh, here she is.
I
Fine then.
was speaking, but you couldn't hear my voice. I don't know why.
Oh, fine then.
Uh,
No problem.
yeah.
So today we will continue with the framework.
Okay.
Right.
The frameworks which are very popular are Spring, Hibernate, Struts.
Yes.
So here, let me write here. Today's date is 7. Right.
Yes.
So among these, Hibernate, Spring, Struts. So these are the frameworks. So framework means a semi-built application. Semi-built application. It means the libraries are already developed.
Okay.
So we will be making use of this semi-built application
Okay.
in our project development. So it's already off-built. So by utilizing this, we can develop our application very easily and in a faster way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is why the frameworks are helpful to us. So they already have the libraries. And these frameworks, so Hibernate, so this is a replacement for EJB. So EJB stands for Enterprise Java Beans. Enterprise Java Beans. So prior to Hibernate, EJB was the popular framework which is used to deal the DB side, database side.
Yes.
So
Okay.
in database where we storing the data, right? So
Okay.
Yeah.
that data is nothing but the model, right? In our MVC controller, model is nothing but the data we have seen, right?
Yes.
This
Yeah.
Right.
model is
Mm.
stored in the.
Database. Mm.
So prior to Hibernate, EJB was used. Even nowadays also EJB is used. So
Okay.
this is a replacement for particularly EJB 2.0 version.
Okay.
Nowadays EJB 3 are also available, which are popular. The thing is, we have EJB experts very less. At the same
Okay.
time, the projects that run on EJB are also low.
Okay.
So when there is an EJB requirement in the industry, and though there are very less experts, they get selected because as we don't find new EJB experts in the current market, and
Okay.
EJB is a little difficult and complex kind of thing to understand. Hibernate is
Mm.
simple compared to EJB.
UJB. Okay.
And the Spring. The Spring is a layered architecture. So it's a layered architecture where there will be many uh, layers like MVC layer and dependency injection layer, IOC layer, inversion of controller vision, then AOP layer, then web layer, then DAO layer, DAO layer, and Spring core layer, Spring core layer. So you can see there are various layers available in this Spring. So whatever the layer you need, you can plug it and use in your application.
Okay.
So this is also a framework. So here you can see inversion of controller, AOP, that is a kind of programming like object-oriented programming. AOP is an aspect-oriented programming.
Yeah.
So web-related things, if you want, you can plug and use them. DAO-related things. So DAO in the sense data access object, right? It means
Yes.
Yeah.
the model being persisted into the database, right?
Yes.
Persisted means permanently stored. So let me put a word here, persisted. So whenever I use the keyword persisted means permanently storing the data into DB. This data is nothing but the model for us, right?
Yes.
Right.
Model or we call them as value object or transfer object, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Or we call them as beans, right? All means the same, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ojo.
Right. Pojo, right, absolutely, Pojo. So all these things comes from Pojo.
Yeah.
Fine. So permanently storing the data into the database. So when we are working with applications, that applications would be handling data. For example, if you consider employee management system, an
Yeah.
application is handling the employees.
Mm-hmm.
Banking system. So banking system is handling the customers, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
banking system also would be handling its own employees also, right?
Right.
Right.
So employee data, customer data. And if you consider hospital management system, so patient data, doctor's
Mm.
data, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the various departments that are available in hospital.
Yes.
Yes.
So departments data. So all these data is to be stored in the database, right?
Right.
Right.
Hibernate talks about that objects, these objects, OJOs, getting
Mm-hmm.
stored in the database.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then struts is completely a front controller architecture, we say. So front controller architecture, and it is made of MVC over there. So it is mainly built on struts MVC framework.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
and
Got
it
it.
Yeah.
is
Got it.
used for developing web applications. All these three are used to develop web applications as well as enterprise applications. I write here web applications, as well as enterprise applications also we can develop.
Mm. Yes.
So among these frameworks, I will be beginning with Hibernate. Why I have chosen Hibernate? The reason is Hibernate talks about the database,
Yes.
and
Okay.
Spring Struts are the frameworks that talks about developing the applications. So here,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the framework you are using, storing the data into the database is the common activity across any application, right? Either it
Right.
is a
Right.
standalone application, core Java application, servlet JSP's application. So Hibernate, I mean to say, storing the data into the database is the common thing, and which is seen in every application, right?
Right.
So that is why I have chosen Hibernate first. We deal with database.
Okay.
And I already told you to go through Hibernate. I mean, not Hibernate, the database, relational database management system.
Yeah.
So, relational database management system concepts like you need to get through primary key,
Keys.
foreign key, then relations like one to one, one to
One too
many, many
many too
to
many.
one, many to many. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you need to go through these relationships, find type
Yeah.
and go through this. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
then so along with this we need to have knowledge on inheritance, so which is of course object oriented concepts, right?
Or
Yeah.
yes.
Object oriented concepts, collections,
Yes.
exceptions.
Mm.
So we need to have knowledge on Java related things, these things.
Yes.
For database related things, these things you need to get into. So along with that, creating a table, I mean DDL commands. So DML command, okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, fine. So we will begin with this uh, Hibernate. So let me write here. So Hibernate is the purpose why this Hibernate came into picture is. So for example, if you consider, I have this. So I have a user class. Observe here, I have a user class. My user class has ID, name, address, phone, and date of birth. So these are the members present in my user class. And
Okay.
in my application, I created 5 objects for this user class. And 5 objects have the data. So one object corresponds to Emma, the other object corresponds to Dus, and third object corresponds to me, Ahmed. Fourth object corresponds to Mike. Got it?
Got
Like
it.
this.
Got it.
So Emma's ID, Emma's name, address, phone, date of birth. Likewise, my ID, my name, address, phone, date of birth. So I
Yes.
have 5 objects filled with some data, right?
Right.
Now, these 5 objects I need to store in database. So my
Yes.
application definitely has to store this data into this database, obviously. So
Yes.
this user class is nothing but the model class, right? Bean
Right.
class
Yeah.
for us.
Yes.
So here the transfer object or value object. So this, to store this data into database, can you name some steps how you can perform this? Because you are already aware of JDBC, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you please name this? So I am asking you to name the steps to store the object into the database table. And if you observe, so Emma's information is stored in one record and Do's information is stored in another record. My information is stored in the third record. Mike's information would be stored in fourth record, and some fifth guy's information would be stored in fifth record, right? Fifth row in the table, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So how can you do that? Give me your own idea, because you are already familiar with JDBC, and I believe
Yes.
you have done that MVC example and you have inserted that username,
Yeah.
first name, last name, those things, right? 3 things.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Um, okay, let me start. First
Right,
of all, yeah, after having our user class,
right, okay, model class, okay,
yeah, our model class with those information, then
okay,
we get those information from the user into the user DO.
okay, it means DAO, right? User DAO,
Yeah,
Yeah.
user
right, in
DO.
the DAO. So in the DAO, you are going to do something, okay, in the DAO.
Yeah,
So you
we're
get that
gonna,
model class, it means model object you got into the DAO,
yes,
right?
yeah, yes,
Through through some means, through some service method we call it as, okay?
yes, yes,
So we call it as service method. Some service method is giving you the model object, right?
yes,
So it means some service method is creating that model object, right?
right.
Right.
Right. Now you got that model object and you are doing with the DAO layer. So in DAO, what are the things you are doing now?
Uh, in the DAO, I will I will have to before doing anything, I have to get the driver, connect.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Driver, then URL, right?
Yes,
Username,
the username and
password,
password.
Password.
right? You need these things.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get the connection, right?
Yes.
Right.
So after obtaining the connection, right,
So
good.
you obtain the first name, the last name, and the username from the user bin.
Right. Through getter methods
Yes.
are model object, you extract
From
the info, right?
So
yes.
yeah,
Right,
from the user
absolutely.
bin.
Right, absolutely, right. Mm.
Then after after that,
Right,
uh, having the whether we're gonna use the prepared statement or
right. Whatever it is, statement you'll
statement,
be using,
yeah,
JDBC API you'll be using. I say JDBC API.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
get the query.
Even this also JDBC API, right?
Yes.
JDBC API, right?
Yes.
So here, what query you are going to write?
Insert.
Insert.
Right, absolutely.
Uh,
Insert into
the
a
table.
table, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a user information, right? User table.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You insert and the data gets inserted, right?
Yes.
Right.
So it means you should have the table created in advance
Database. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
in
in the
database
database.
in advance, right? You should have
Yes.
a table, right? Only
Yes.
then you can insert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you should create the table in advance, then you can perform the insert statement, right?
Right.
Right.
So over there, your model object which has members, maybe first name, last name. So I write here model object. So first name, last name, address,
Mm.
phone,
On
contact, right? These things.
Yeah.
So it may be having an ID also.
ID.
So these things. So how you are doing? You are extracting each member through getter methods,
Yeah.
and then you are inserting using JDBC API
Yes.
through some prepare statement or some kind of mechanism, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
here your object is now mapped to this database table, right?
Right.
Yes.
And who is mapping that? You are mapping, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are writing intelligently the code that the members which you are extracting are now stuffed into these tables, right?
Right.
Right.
And here, so these things, whatever you are performing here using the JDBC API becomes simple here. The thing is the object, model object, the object and the database So if you say here, in the database, we call it the table is called as relational, right?
The relational database.
That's relation we say, okay? And this
Mm.
database we call it as RDBMS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relational Database Management System.
Management
Right?
system.
And in Java, the data is a model object, right?
Mm-hmm.
So model object is now mapped to the RDBMS relation, right?
Right.
Right.
So here the object is mapping to relation, right?
Right.
Right.
So this mapping of an object to relational tables is nothing but object relational mapping, we say. In short, we
Mm.
Okay.
call it as ORM.
Mm.
And our Hibernate is a ORM tool. So the Hibernate does all these things using JDBC API internally.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. And with your JDBC, suppose if you switch to another database, I mean, today you are using MySQL, okay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow you go for Oracle. Now, what
Mm-hmm.
are the changes you want to do?
Yeah.
So, what are the changes you need to do? You need to change the driver, right?
Yeah, the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
URL, username, password,
Username.
right?
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Along with that, there may be a possibility that your insert query also gets changed because
Mm.
it depends upon the database, right? Insert query, I mean SQL queries.
The query. Yeah.
Even though we are using ANSI standard SQL, which is common
Mm-hmm.
across various relational database management system, there may be a case that some keywords which are peculiar to particular database, then you need to change the query also, right?
Right.
Right.
So whereas with Hibernate, so here these queries insert statement is done by Hibernate itself. You are not
Mm.
going to write that insert statement. You are
Okay.
going to write only model object, and this based upon the model object, a table is created. So the
Oh.
table name would be similar to the class name.
Okay.
And in the model there are attributes, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
attributes like ID, first name, last name, contact. So these
Mm-hmm.
becomes columns in the table. Got it?
Oh, got it.
Got it.
Each object would become a row. So I write
Oh.
here. So the class will become a table. Then the attributes become columns. Then object become
The
a row.
rows. Mm.
Right? Each object is a row then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All mapping is done by Hibernate automatically. So you just need
Great.
to configure that. So you
Mm.
will be configuring in XML files. We will
Okay.
be looking into those steps now. So that is
Okay.
creating a model class and this Java object being, so here I introduce the term, the Java object being persisted into the database. That's what is
Yeah.
happening right here ultimately. The Java objects are being stored in the database, persisted in the database,
Yes.
Yeah.
permanently stored in the database, right?
Mm. Right.
Right.
So that's what Hibernate will take care of all these things. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
and back to here. Yes. So Hibernate is an ORM tool and it is used in the data layer for applications and it implements JPA. that is Java Persistent API,
Oh.
which sets standards for persisting a Java object into database. So JP
Yes.
is a community which will set some standards for storing the data, I mean model class into the database. Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
So this Hibernate is implementing this JPA.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, suppose you are not interested in Hibernate, you need to go for some other XYZ framework which is
Mm-hmm.
implementing the JPA. Then you can easily switch to that framework also, because
Oh,
that XYZ framework is implementing the JPA then.
yeah.
So that also
Okay.
becomes easy. Then there are certain problems with the JDBC related thing, that is the user class mapping to object. I'm just highlighting the the thing you just told me, right? These things. This.
Yes. Mm.
So with these things, there are some pain points. I'm
Okay.
highlighting those pain points.
Mm-hmm.
So the problems are mapping member variables to columns in tables. So whenever, so the thing is, okay, you have stored an object into table as a
Mm-hmm.
row.
Yes.
Now you fetched some data. Uh, you can fetch from the data from the database also, of course.
Yes.
As insertion is possible, you can get the pull the data also from the database, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So here, in your model class, assume you have to add some new variables,
Mm-hmm.
new columns. So new variables, then new columns are to be added in the database, right? With
Right.
Yeah.
JDBC.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever there is an extra column, then you need to add an extra column. Yeah, sorry. Whenever there is an extra member in the class, maybe due to additional requirements. Today you have
Yes.
created
Yeah.
this user object like this. Tomorrow you
Mm.
need to add an email ID, assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then your database column also should be additionally added, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that is a problem one.
Okay.
Second, mapping relations. So that is user object has a reference to address object. The thing is, assume I have an user object and this address as of now it is a variable, right, in my user class.
Mm-hmm.
I assume this address as an object over there. It means user class has a reference to another object. Got it?
Right.
So
Yes.
address may be another class then, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So address class would be talking about the addresses of the user. Maybe communication address, maybe permanent address, residence address. Got it? Office address.
Got it. Got it.
So there may be various addresses for the user. So
Okay.
Yeah.
here, then the user class has a reference to this address object. So the address object, you need to keep a reference to that address object as well while inserting the data of a user into this user table, right? It means
Right.
automatically data has to be inserted into the address table also, right?
Okay.
Right.
Because address is a different class which talks about the user's various addresses.
Mm.
Got it? So when there
Got
is
Got
it.
it.
such a kind of association in your class, I mean, another object being present in your class,
Mhm.
then you need to take care of the primary key, foreign key dependencies also. So in the database, there are primary key and foreign key. So here, there will be a user table and there will be an address table, right, in the database.
Mm.
Yeah.
And in the address table, there may be a primary key. And
Mm-hmm.
that primary key in my user table will act as a foreign key. Got it?
Got
Got
it.
it.
So you need to maintain these kind of stuff also while mapping the relations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this becomes tough to you while you are using your JDBC API.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then handling data types. For example, in Java we have a Boolean data type.
Mm.
You can check whether a user is active. So maybe yes or no. That is true or false for a user, for whether a user is active. can be determined by using true or false in Java, right? Because it's a
Right.
Boolean data. When you convert this Boolean data type attribute into table, column, do we have such a Boolean data type in database?
No.
No.
No. Then in database you need to put a column and you need to maintain like for true or false, maybe yes or no, or one or zero. So based upon your necessity, right?
Right.
This also becomes a tough part.
Oh yeah.
Then managing changes to the object state. For example, from your database, you fetched one row. Maybe MS row you have fetched. Okay.
Yes.
MS information you have fetched. And now the data that is pulled from the database is now in the service layer. Got it?
Right.
In my service layer, I change the contact of that is phone number of Emma. I mean, there is a change in the phone number. Okay.
Okay.
When Emma's phone number is now changed in service layer, who will get updating that phone number in the actual database then? Actual database also should reflect that updated value, right?
Right.
Then you should take care of that, right? It means you should write another method. You should call a procedure when there is an update in the user object. Do perform an update on the database also. So you should write some procedure over there, right?
Right.
So this also becomes difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we overcome all these things using Hibernate. Okay. So you can see the steps here which we just discussed and which you highlighted. When I asked you to store the model object into the class, I mean to say to the database. So JDBC configuration we need and the model object we need, that is user object for us, and there is the service method which would create the model object, right?
Right.
And database design also we need. It means we need to create the table, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Making sure that the attributes are the columns, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And a DAO method to save the object to database, and you write an insert query, right?
Insert query. Yeah.
Those are the steps you highlighted, right? By using the JDBC mechanism.
Yeah.
Now, the Hibernate style of persisting the object into database, saving an object into database. The JDBC configuration URL, username, password, even in Hibernate also we require it. We do it in an XML file. Hibernate configuration we say.
Okay.
And this model object also we have here.
Yes.
That is user object. So this can be done manually or with annotations also. We will see both the things, manual as well as annotations. Okay.
Okay.
Then service method to create the model object. So to create this model object, Hibernate uses its own API. Got it?
Okay.
Then database design. We don't need to bother of creating the table in the database.
Okay.
Hibernate does it for us. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So based upon the class, it creates the table name. Based upon the attributes, it creates the column name. Okay.
Column. Yes.
And here you can see DAO method to save the object, that is insert query writing. And I already highlighted that DAO method to save the object insert query. We don't need to do this.
Yes, insert.
These two steps are done by Hibernate automatically for us.
Internally.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So here, let me back. Right. Here. So I gave a brief introduction to Hibernate. Now we will see the features and then the API. Yes, the Hibernate tutorial. So Hibernate was started somewhere in 2001 by Gavin King. It's an alternative to EJB2 style entity bin. I already highlighted this, right?
Yes, you said that. Yeah.
Right. The stable release of Hibernate. So this was the stable release. So in 2030, with Hibernate 2.2.5 version was released.
Okay.
So, and Hibernate framework, you can see here, Hibernate framework simplifies the development of Java application to interact with the database.
Yes.
And Hibernate is an open source, lightweight, ORM tool, object relational mapping tool. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what we have been addressing. Objects to be persisted into the database, right?
Right.
Right.
So, an ORM tool simplifies the data creation, data manipulation, and data access. So this is what we generally do with the database, right? Data
Right.
creation,
Yeah.
data manipulation, and data access. That is,
Yes.
data creation in sense create command with database. Data manipulation is DML queries, right? And data
Right.
access in sense select query, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So this ORM is a programming technique that maps objects to data stored in the database. Okay.
Okay.
So objects are being mapped to relations. You can see a Java application, which is an object. By using the ORM mapping, this object is being persisted into the database.
Yes.
And this ORM internally uses the JDBC API to interact with the database. So those drivers, connections, URL, password, everything is needed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So advantages of Hibernate framework. So it's an open source and lightweight. So it's
Yeah.
freely available and it is faster in performance because they are lightweight components, which means they consume less computer resources, right?
Yes.
Right.
Then performance. So the performance of Hibernate framework is fast because it uses the cache, that is cache memory inside. So
Okay.
generally, when there is cache memory, automatically the performance would be higher, right?
Yeah.
So cache internally, that is why it is
Yeah.
higher in performance. And there are two types of cache memories, cache we say. Hibernate framework first level cache and second level cache. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
First level cache is enabled by default.
Oh.
And second level cache, we need to configure it. I'll show you by example in our upcoming sessions how to configure the second level cache and the advantages of second level cache.
Okay.
And database independent query. So the thing is, whatever the database you are using. So there is Hibernate query language, HQL, is an object-oriented version of SQL. So Hibernate has this SQL, Hibernate query language. This
Oh.
generates the database independent queries. Whatever the database you are using, these queries are independent to those database. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need to write a database specific queries. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before Hibernate, if database is changed for the project, we need to change the SQL query as well as that leads the maintenance flow. The thing is, prior to Hibernate, if the database is changed, then you need to write the insert statements also. You need to change. I told you, right? Because there may be particular syntax about a particular database. I told you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
With Hibernate, you don't need to bother about database changes.
Changes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Even though you migrate to Oracle or Sybase, Ingress, SQL Server in future, so Hibernate takes care of it. You'll be changing,
Okay.
you'll be making some simple configuration changes. That's it. The insert queries are updated. These are not changed. Hibernate will take care of them.
Okay.
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 Automatic table creation.
Oh.
Hibernate framework provides the facility to create tables of database automatically. So there is no need to write create commands. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So simplifies the complex joins. So to fetch data from multiple tables with Hibernate framework, it is easy. So the complex joins are simplified here.
Yes.
Then provides query statistics and database status. So here Hibernate supports a query that is query cache and provides statistics about the query and database status also. So
Oh,
how the query getting executed, everything is taken care by Hibernate.
right. Hibernate, yeah.
Yes. And let me move to another file, Hibernate architecture. So here the Hibernate architecture includes many objects persisted, that many objects, that is persistent object. So you can
Yeah.
see here persistent object, session factory, transaction factory, connection factory, session, transaction, etc. So we will be making use of these things that are present inside the Hibernate. So there are 4 layers in Hibernate architecture. So Java application layer, Hibernate framework layer, then the backend API layer, and the database layer. So we will see the diagram here. You can see here. Java application, where we have a model object over there, that is persistent object we say, okay.
Yeah.
And the Hibernate has the mapping files and configuration files. So
Right.
configuration, I told you that JDBC URL, connection, username, password, you will be configuring, I told, right?
Yes.
This talks about the configuration file, okay.
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 And in our application, maybe we are inserting user data or employee data or customer data, student data, doctor data, that talks about the mapping, okay. So
Okay.
my classes mapping to database tables, that is mapping files we say. So Hibernate
Okay.
has these 2 things. Hibernate uses these 2 things and then persists the data into the database.
Okay.
I'll show you both the files, mapping files as well as configuration files through our sample.
Okay.
And here you can see. So Hibernate framework uses the objects, so Java application, and the persistent object which is going to be stored in the database finally here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll be making use of the session factory, transaction factory, connection provider, session, transaction, which further uses of the JDBC API, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it also make use of the JNDA and JTA. These are other APIs. So
Oh.
Java naming, and it is JNDI. I don't remember this JNDA expansion. Java naming, it is something like naming. Okay.
Java naming directory interface.
Directory, right. Java naming. So to map the Java objects, right? So the Java naming directory, and here Java transaction API JTA. So here transaction related API it means. So here transaction means a transaction representing some unit of work.
Okay.
So maybe changing the employee email ID is also a transaction.
Changing.
Changing the employee's email ID. Inserting a new employee into the database can also be termed as a transaction. But if transaction represents a small amount of work, that small amount of work may be represented in Oracle or in database with a single SQL statement or multiple SQL statements. Okay.
Okay.
Here there is a session factory. The session factory object would be only one for entire application. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Please do remember, with our servlets and JSPs, we have seen servlet context object being one for entire web application, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And here session factory object would be one for entire web application, entire application. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This name session factory, you can see session factory. It's a factory that would generate sessions. Okay.
Okay.
That session is nothing but this blue color session. Okay. From session
Okay.
factory, we obtain sessions. Through each session, we will be talking to the database. Okay. So
Okay.
to perform a communication with database through session, we need to have transaction. So there is a transaction factory which would generate transaction, this transaction. Got it?
All right. Yeah.
The factory of transaction, yeah. Then we need to have a connection to perform all these things, this connection provider. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here you can see. So for creating the first Hibernate application, we must know the elements of Hibernate architecture. So session factory. Session factory is a factory of session, and a client of connection provider. So session factory is a client of connection provider. So we get the connection also through this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This holds the second level cache. The session factory will be holding the second level cache, and it is optional. Holding the second level cache is an optional. Okay.
Yes.
Then the session factory is present in org.hibernate.session-factory. This is an interface, and this is the package where the session factory is seen. Okay, org.hibernate session factory.
Mm.
Then session. So session, the session object provides an interface. So this provides an interface between the application and data stored in the database.
Mm.
So we are going to store the data by making use of the session. Okay. And this session is a short-lived object and wraps the JDBC connection. Okay. And it is a factory of, so session is a factory of transaction, query, and criteria. So among these, transaction means that represents a unit of work, right?
Yes.
So query talks about the SQL query. Criteria talks about the conditions on the SQL query. For example, with select statement, we put where clause to perform a filter, right? So where clause acts as a filter and where clause acts as a condition, right? Which while pulling the data, if you use a where condition, it will filter the data and pull the data, right?
Yes.
So we call them as criteria here. So my session object is a factory for these transaction, queries, and criteria. Got it?
Got it.
And this session holds a first level cache, which is mandatory and which is by default enabled in Hibernate. First level cache. Okay. You don't need to make any configuration steps to make use of this first level cache. Hibernate by default comes with first level cache. Okay.
Okay.
And this is present in r.hibernate session. Okay. And it is an interface. And it provides methods to insert, update, delete object. So you are going to perform that object storing using session object. Got it?
Got it.
So it also provides the factory methods for transaction, query, criteria. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Then transaction. So the transaction object specifies the atomic unit of work. That's what I told you. Transactions represent some amount of work, unit of work. And it is optional. It is optional. So it is present in arg.hibernate transaction. So you need to remember the package name. Okay. And it is also an interface and it provides methods for transaction management.
Okay.
Then connection provider. So it is a factory of JDBC connections, and it abstracts the application from driver manager and data source.
Mm.
And this is also an optional. Okay.
Yeah.
Then transaction factory. So it's a factory of transaction. So which would generate transaction upon the requirement. Okay.
Okay.
And it is optional. Yes. That's about the basic elements of Hibernate architecture, which we make use of these elements in writing a sample Hibernate application that would persist Java object into database.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for now, I am winding up the session. Tomorrow, we will write a simple application which would store the Java object into database. We make use of both XML mapping as well as annotation also in our upcoming session.
Okay.
All right.
Are we having the session at the 9 p.m. session?
No. The thing is, I am packed with some work, so we will not be having evening sessions. If there is any chance to take an evening session, I will inform you in advance.
Okay.
We will be having the regular sessions as usual between 5 and 6 a.m. IST. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll email you both the documents.
Yes.
You just refer to them. Tomorrow we'll come
Please.
out with writing an application. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tried that assignment you gave us, and it's
Right.
working.
You finished it. Finished.
Yeah, we finished it. It's working.
Great. That's fine. Fantastic then.
Mm.
All right. Catch you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
Yeah,
Thank
you.